Thanks for joining us today. I've been looking at some of the comments you've already said on your media round this morning, talking about immigration and how people are dealt with, because what's causing a lot of concern is the fact that people have been moved from Dover to Manston, which was already vastly overcrowded and running hugely beyond its timescale of keeping people for 24 hours only. You've said we've got to find a way of dealing with people compassionately and looking after them, as well as processing them as quickly as possible. Well, they're not being looked after compassionately at Manston, are they? That's the big problem.
No, actually the accommodation there is quite reasonable. They've got access to showers, to medical facilities, to to food, and so what matters actually is getting them processed as quickly as possible. And we're talking about people who've been exploited, who've literally been had their life savings taken off them, put on an unseaworthy craft and pushed across the channel by unscrupulous people who are exploiting them. And we have a responsibility to look after them, to process them quickly, and to work out who's a genuine asylum seeker and who should be returned to a safe country.
I mean, Manston's got a capacity of 1,000, 1,500 at a push, and they're meant to stay there for 24 hours. Mark White, who you just heard there, spoke to a whistleblower on Saturday who works there, saying there's now about 4,000, plus the 700 who've been shipped in overnight. And there's outbreaks of diphtheria, scabies, other health conditions, people sleeping on cardboard, on concrete floors. How's that the right way to be dealing with this?
So that's not my understanding. Is actually that people presented with diphtheria and were treated by the medical facilities there. That was not an outbreak of diphtheria within the facility. That's people landing on our shores with that condition and being treated by our medical teams there to help and support them. So we then need to process these people as quickly as possible, as you identify. That's what we're attempting to do. But there is a plan where we're working with local authorities. We've invested over £20 million with our local authorities up and down the country to accommodate people in different places around the UK. But the answer is a multiple choice question, if you like. So we need to get on with the Rwanda plan. We need to make sure we break the business model of those people coming across the channel exploiting people, and we need to process them at the other end and make sure we get to the right conclusions as quickly as possible.
When they're here in the UK, why is the processing taking so long?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite complicated to work out, because obviously these people sometimes come without any documentation, so you've got to work out where they've come from, how old they are, and their background, and it's quite difficult to process and verify all of that information. That is quite a challenge, but that's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to expedite and do as quickly as possible. But it's not quite as easy as, here is individual A, and all of that information is presented and documented. That's not how people turn up on our shores.
Speed that process up. So you need to define and understand why it's taking so long. Is it that you need more people, more accommodation? What is it?
Yeah, so that's exactly what the Home Office is focused on right now. That's why the Home Secretary is in the Home Office dealing with those challenges as we speak. We want to get through this process as quickly as possible. We want to break that model of people stealing their life savings and putting their lives in danger, and we want to try and do that as quickly as physically deliverable.
I mean, what was interesting, we spoke to Stephen Kinnock, the Shadow Immigration Minister, a little bit earlier on, and look, to be perfectly fair, he came up with some pretty solid suggestions. I mean, like you, saying, well, you need to increase the numbers, increase the processing capacity, but saying, well, scrap Rwanda, that doesn't seem to have had much of a deterrent effect. Scrap that and use the money to actually get that processing done faster.
Well, there is no silver bullet here, and to suggest there is a silver bullet is misleading. It's a very complicated system that we're addressing, and we need a multiple answer to that, and we'll continue to. I think Rwanda is part of that solution, but there are other answers which we're delivering at the same time.
Why did Suella Braverman decide to move those people from Dover to Manston when we knew there wasn't enough space to look after them all safely?
Well, because as you saw, there was a terrible firebomb. Those people had to be moved from Dover rapidly. They needed to go somewhere secure and safe, and Manston was the best option at this moment in time to look after them. We're talking about very vulnerable people here who are being exploited. And I mean, actually, in the United Kingdom, we've got a fantastic track record of being the most compassionate country anywhere in the world. You know, we've taken people from Afghanistan, from Syria, from Hong Kong, from Ukraine. It's no surprise that people want to come here because we're such a compassionate and caring country. But we need to develop systems that are robust enough and quick enough to be able to deal with them.
We're talking